Talk about getting your money's worth out of a grinding disc. Before, 4 inches. After, it's like the size of a poker chip. So we've got the cab up in the air and all the firewall trimmed out, pretty much trimmed down to where it's going to meet the Crown Vic firewall. And so now's a good time to kind of work on this part, especially this rust area, because it's really easy to access. And I've got some new panels, lower A-pillar portions to replace. So I'm going to work on getting that done kind of before I make the cab with the firewall on both sides, because I've got to cut this inner panel out as well, replace that, and then see what kind of metal I've got to put in the very bottom here to join in with the rocker panels and step plates that I've got as well. So that's what I'm going to be working on now. So I've been working on replacing the rust in the lower part of the A-pillar here, and in order to get access to where the A-pillar was rusted out, where it kind of joins the cowl channel cavity, whatever you want to call this, I had to cut this lower part out, but a lot of it was pretty much rusted out anyway. Kind of where the material kind of falls down that enters the cowl vents down into this area and accumulates and sits down here. That's really where it stays moist and damp, and it rusted through this A-pillar as well as the lower part of this cowl channel. So I cut the cowl channel out to be able to get access in here. I'm just cutting little pieces out and kind of welding this in. The whole lower part of the A-pillar obviously is going to need to be replaced. So I'm kind of working on that. I've got the hinge portion where it kind of joins the step plate already put in here, to kind of help serve as a bit of a template of kind of how all this kind of comes together. But what has really been kicking my butt is figuring out how to incorporate that with the residual part of the Crown Vic firewall. So I kind of cut this angle here to kind of mate up with that kind of cowl channel as it comes down to the lower part of the A-pillar. But I'm going to have to cut more of this Crown Vic rocker out. So I think I'm just going to take this part out that I left, because this is going to interfere with the replacement rockers for the cab. So I've kind of marked it here. I think I'm just going to cut it here, come up across and into the floor pan, and then I think my plan is to, at that point, set the cab back down on it and then tack them together, and then that way I can lift the cab back off and have the Crown Vic firewall and floor pan section kind of temporarily mated with the cab, and that way I can kind of get under here and sort of see exactly, you know, how I need to join all this together so it's sealed up and watertight. I mean, that's very critical that this part here be be watertight and sealed very well, so no moisture kind of gets up in here and lays in here. So I think by having it up off the chassis again and on my stand, I'll be able to get better access to it and really be able to work to kind of get all that sealed up. Alright, so I'm about to join my running board together with the step plate that I bought, and I've got them measured pretty much where I think they need to be, as far as where the running board needs to come to, and I got a line drawn here, so when I put it underneath here I know where it needs to be. I've gone along the flange here and I've marked about every 2 inches, so I'm going to take my air punch tool and pop some holes in here so I can spot weld it together with the running board, rocker panel, and so that's what I'm going to do now. So I got the cab back on the chassis for about the 67th time, but I went ahead and welded, just tacked actually, the step plate and rocker panels in here. Obviously I got a lot of work to do back here, but I kind of had to fab my own lower portion of the B-pillar here. The one on the passenger side was still intact, so I kind of used it as a template, if you will. Just kind of fab that out of 14 gauge. That came out pretty well, and I think it'll work fine once I get these cab corners replaced, because I've got replacement cab corners there. But that's kind of where we are. I'm just kind of trying to visualize how I'm going to close up this opening on the inside here, get all this closed up and sealed. That's going to be a bit of a task, and then kind of get these floors joined together in some form or fashion. That's where we are. And here's the passenger side. Kind of same deal. I'm going to have to fab this lower part where it kind of comes down and joins the step plate, because they don't make that reproduction, so I'll have to kind of do all that by hand. So next thing I'm going to be focusing on is just kind of trying to figure out how to get all this closed up, and use, you know, this portion of the Vic firewall. I think it's going to work okay. It's going to be tedious and time consuming just to get all that closed up.